Hi everyone, I'm Paige Abbott, and this is your weekly recovery message on the E characteristic of addiction. The previous weeks I've been reviewing the A, B, C, D characteristics of addiction, and this week I'm at the final characteristic, which is the dysfunctional emotional response. This is another lifelong or chronic symptom of addiction, and essentially what it's referring to is how the disease of addiction distorts and messes around with inherent feelings and feelings processing. So the dysfunctional emotional response can look different depending on the person and depending on the moment, but often it's characterized by either minimizing, so numbing, avoiding, stuffing, wanting to just get away from feelings, or just minimizing the issue in general, so not appreciating the gravity of an emotion or a situation, so the feeling gets muted, the volume dial gets turned down. On the other end of the spectrum, the dysfunctional emotional response may also involve exaggeration or magnifying of feelings. So people may feel quite chaotic. There may be a very dramatic, over-the-top response to something that is not proportional. And that's the core of the dysfunctional emotional response. The dysfunctional part means that the response is disproportionate to the reality of the situation. So, for example, someone flying into a rage because a dishwasher hasn't been loaded properly, or on the flip side, on the minimization side, somebody almost having no reaction or just feeling a little bit upset to somebody who has physically attacked them. So again, we're seeing a very disproportionate response to events that likely would bring a different level of emotion. In dealing with feelings in the context of recovery, we emphasize around HUM the importance of checking in on feelings regularly to try and prevent this dysfunctional emotional response buildup from happening. So you can't prevent the response itself from happening, but it is important to be proactive in dealing with feelings as they come up so that your disease doesn't compartmentalize, numb, or stuff them, or in the worst case scenario, use addictive acting out to get away from those feelings completely. So it's integral that in recovery you learn to practice feeling the feelings rather than falling back into the disease patterns of minimizing or exaggerating these responses without actually feeling the feelings. Because even when there's an exaggerated response, I hope you can appreciate people aren't truly connecting with their feelings and feeling the feelings. They're so caught up in the drama or the chaos of that response that that also inadvertently shuts down actually feeling the feelings. A lot of clients get confused. They try to intellectually sort out, well, what's the dysfunctional emotional response? What's my real feeling in this situation? And I would discourage you from always trying to do that intellectual assessment. The feelings at core are real, and they are there, and they need to be dealt with. You have to keep in mind the dysfunctional emotional response doesn't mean that the emotion itself isn't real. It just means that how your brain is wanting you to deal with those feelings can become quite unhealthy and at core dysfunctional. So it's still important to feel the feelings and go through them rather than try to avoid them or intellectually figure them out. Over time, it might become clear after you've gone through that feeling how the disease was distorting that feeling. That's great awareness for future learning, but that's not a necessary thing to figure out as you go through feeling the feelings. The other thing that's important to keep in mind is it may also be beneficial for you to look at, is this my feeling? And what I mean by that is at times the disease may provide its own feedback into how you should feel about a situation or event that may not actually be representative of your true feelings. And as well, you may be vulnerable to taking on other people's feelings about an event or situation rather than connecting with your own. So when you do that daily check-in of how am I feeling, it may also be beneficial to ask yourself, is this my feeling? Which of these feelings are mine? And again, you may not always be able to sort out whose feelings you're taking on, or if they're yours, if they're diseases. This can make it very complicated. At core, focus on feeling the feelings. That will help to move you forward. These other pieces of being able to see more clearly the dysfunctional emotional response and other people's feelings that you're taking on, that can come later, and that may not come all the time, but there will be more clarity the more that you feel those feelings. So hopefully that makes sense to you, and the A, B, C, D, E characteristics of addiction are a really helpful way to start to learn more about the disease, which is less focused on just looking at behavior and more about the reality of what addiction is and all of the areas that it can impact. Thanks for watching, and please feel free to share these videos with anyone you feel would benefit from them. I wish you the best in your ongoing journey of recovery for this week, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye for now.